Welcome to the kingdom. I'm Chris, and this is Good Enough Gaming. Howdy folks, welcome to this video where I am finally going to get around to doing with Grimdark Future what I just did yesterday with the video on Age of Fantasy. Let's take a look at the new Army Special Rules for the 3.5 beta, see which ones look like they could be really good, which ones might be okay, which ones are kind of downers, and how well they match the Army aesthetic and look. I put this off for far too long, to quote Bilbo Baggins. But given the amount of change that we've seen with the Grimdark Future ones, maybe it was a good idea to hold off a little bit. Who knows? But the video I did yesterday summarizing the Age of Fantasy ones seemed to be pretty popular, so let's do the same thing here. We'll go over all of the armies, just taking a look at the new Army Special Rule. Initial reactions, we'll see how closely they might align to the armies. We'll see if we're just going to see copies of the ones that were released for Age of Fantasy, and you'll get my unfiltered, unrehearsed reaction. So let's dive in and take a look and see what we got. So here we are on the beta homepage. Let's take a look and see what we've got. Starting off with the alien Hives. What am I Zerg going to be doing now? Scrolling down. Okay, we have Hive Assault. When this model shoots at enemies within 12 inches or when it charges, enemies that roll to block hits from its weapons take 1 extra wound for each unmodified result of 1 that they roll. That's a bit of a mouthful, to be honest with you. So once they're within 12 inches, if you shoot or charge them, and when they are saving to block, they roll a 1, they take extra. So it's like the old, what was it? It was the one the ghostly undead had. Reap, very similar to Reap. So when you're attacking, it's nothing special on your end. It's for their failure to roll. Now that will be very useful now when you play, for example, hordes. If you do lots and lots of the little gribblies that can attack and throw out tons of attacks, even if they're just crappy quality 5 or 6, if you can drown your opponent in dice, every single one they roll is going to do double damage. So this would be encouraging players to do more of a spam type army rather than to go specifically with elite. You'll have a better chance of getting a wound for them to roll a block, but they won't be rolling as many dice and so less likely to hit that 1. At least that's what it seems to me up front. Now, kind of like we did with Havoc yesterday, we've got a few to go through. So the Battle Brothers, just regular old Battle Brothers, they have Battleborn, and I think I've seen this before. Yeah, this is one of the armies I looked at previously. +6 range when shooting and +3 when using charge. Now, this is the special rule that they gave to the Chivalrous Kingdoms, and for the Chivalrous Kingdoms, I thought that's like winning 10 cents in the lottery. But for the Battle Brothers, this is really good. The reason it sucked for the Chivalrous Kingdoms is the Chivalrous Kingdoms don't have a very good quality. And most of their weapons aren't that great. Their best range unit are bowmen who already shoot 30 inches, so another 6 really isn't doing that much for them. But here, when your core unit, the Battle Brothers, are quality 3 and base, attack 1, AP 1, and you can equip them with stuff that does even more damage, the ability to shoot, now your basic troop is 30-inch range. And then when you have your melee intense guys, your Assault Brothers now can be charging 15. So I think this has made the Battle Brothers really strong, especially as a shooting army. And if you take these Support Brothers and you start giving them some of those heavy weapons, you can now put them so far back that your opponent's going to have trouble getting to them, and they're going to be launching firepower at you from the very beginning and just pummeling you the whole game. So I think this makes them pretty darn strong, and it hasn't been changed yet. So I'm wondering if it's still coming out balanced, because it's one of the Army Special Rules that hasn't been nerfed, changed, or edited yet. At least I don't think it has. Now, if we take a look at some of the special ones, the Blood Brothers. What do they have here? Bloodborne. Oh boy, that's a big block. When this model shoots at enemies within 12 or charges, enemies that roll blocks to hits take 1 extra. Okay, so it's the exact same rule as what the alien Hives got. Like, it's identical. There's a little extra wording just to specify there's no, continual exploding, but that's the same weapon or the same rule that the alien Hives got. So this means that you're going to want to play more melee armies with the Blood Brothers, or really, really up close shooting. Staying back will do literally nothing for you. So you got to get in close. I guess I don't play Blood Brothers, but I imagine those who do, who play with a lot of Assault, not Death Company, if you know what I mean, play with Destroyers, things like that, are going to have a lot of fun with this rule. So, okay, it's good. It does kind of force you to play the Blood Brothers a specific way, but since that's kind of how the Blood Brothers are meant to play, very melee, get in your face, it matches the army. So it's not a really, really crushing rule, but it fits the army aesthetic. So, okay. Dark Brothers. What do we have with these ones? Darkborn. When they have this rule, +1 to defense against shooting and charges over 9 inches away. This is also very powerful because you've just turned your Battle Brothers basically into Prime Brothers, but for less points. Because now, until you get close to them, they're a defense 2. And let me tell you, if you've seen any of those games where I played the Prime Brothers, or that recent one where I did Prime versus Custodians, nobody died. After 4 rounds, it took forever to kill something. So what you've got now is a Battle Brothers army that has the defense of a Prime Brothers army. So this is a very, very good army rule. So anyone who hasn't played Dark Brothers might want to give them a try. And if you did already play them, you're probably very happy with it. Moving on to the Night Brothers. They are Nightborn. When taking a wound, roll a die on a 6. It's ignored. If the wound was from a spell, it's the old Aegis. It is identical to the old Aegis rule. Absolutely nothing has changed. So they just gave it a new name. So, okay, so the army already had this kind of special rule. No need to give them another one. No need to change it. I think it's pretty good. Although, if you think about it, this is better than what they gave the Undead, because it's the 6-up to ignore wounds, but then if it's from a spell, it gets buffed to a 2. Whereas the Vampiric Undead, they just get the 6 ignore. And the Robot Legions, there's one of the armies I looked ahead. Their self-repair is a 6 ignore, but you don't get that little extra 2+ for spells. So it's very, very niche when you're going to use it, but it's still there. So it's what the Robot Legion gets, but better. So no change. If you like playing the Knights before, you'll still like playing them. The Watch Brothers. What do we got for these gentlemen? Watchborn. When this model shoots at enemies within 12 or charges, the targets must reroll 6s when blocking hits. So they gave him poison on the charge or within 12. Now, I'd be curious, someone who does the math, what's more likely to get you what you want? The re-rolling 6s or the ones do double? Probably the ones do double, because they're going to fail it and they're going to take double damage. Whereas this, they re-roll the 6, there's still a good chance that they re-roll a passing roll. So this one, it's kind of weaker. It's not great. Now, I suppose depending on what kind of army you play with, what kind of weapons, if you can really pile on the attacks and force your opponent to re-roll lots and lots of dice, or if you're fighting against aliens, HDF, any army that has mass. Really low defense, but mass models, this will be really good for you. But against elites, this isn't going to do you anything at all. And finally, the Wolf Brothers. What did they give them? Wolfborn. When the model's deployed, it may be placed anywhere fully within 9 inches of its position. Okay, so it got that junior version of Scout. So at the start of the turn, junior version of Scout. Now, if I'm not mistaken, when I looked previously, they used to have the rule that the Dark Elves got, where after every shot and every melee, they could move 3 inches. So it's kind of like this steady advance. They're constantly creeping towards you. Instead, they decided to just give them 3 turns of that up front, and then you're playing the game as normal. So, okay, movement. I guess wolves are fleet and fast, but I'm not sure. Those of you who play Wolfborn or Wolf Brothers are going to have to tell me whether you think this is good, you're excited about it, it gets your melee guys that much closer, or does it put them just a little bit closer so your enemy can then countercharge you? I suppose it all depends who has the first turn. So this one, it's not great, but it's not awful. And that's it for the Battle Brothers. Moving on to the Blessed Sisters. They used to have Devout. What did they do here? Still Devout. When this model shoots at enemies within 12, or when it charges, unmodified results of 6 deal 1 extra hit. So it's identical to Devout, except it now includes charging, which is nice. Because I played Sisters before, And some of the sisters, like the Fanatic sisters over here, they don't have guns at all. So Devout, they had the rule, it meant absolutely nothing to them. Now it does. Now when they charge, they're going to be that much more dangerous. So I liked playing the sisters before. A lot of fun, very, very dynamic, flexible army. You had a lot of different ways to play it. It's the exact same, only now the melee guys get even better. So if you're a sisters player, this was good news for you. Just added to what's already there. Custodians. Oh, Custodians. They're already almost too strong. So what do they give Custodians? We have Guardian Armor. -1 AP over 9 inches away. Oh my gosh, they are going to be unkillable. Because if you take Custodians and give them shields 2, they're going to be negating the first 2 AP. You have to shoot them with AP 3 just to force them to roll a 3-up save. And if you can give them regen, they're never going to die. For those of you who watched that bat rep I did where I played my dwarfs against Nick, who was using my Custodians, I could not kill his captain. It was impossible. He had a 2-up defense, then he had regeneration, and I just couldn't do it. So, if you want an army that just never dies, few models, and they never die, play Custodians. This new Guardian Armor makes them very, very tanky. Moving on, the DAO. Now, this is another one I looked at previously, and I think it has already changed, but I think it's changed for the better. So, targeting visor. When this model shoots at enemies over 9 inches away, it gets +1 to hit. When I first looked last week and a half ago, when the beta dropped, it was just +1 to hit, and I said, that's broken. That is so broken. Because this army is a very, very shooty army, and that shooting, all their firepower, is kind of balanced by the fact that you got a lot of quality 4. And once they threw this in, the entire army's on a quality 3. You've got now an army that's cheaper than Battle Brothers, but can shoot better than them, or equal to them. So I think this is a good way of kind of mitigating, and it's still not bad. 9 inches away. So as long as you don't let them get close, you're just going to be shooting holes in them. Your enemy's going to look like a block of Swiss cheese. So very, very good. I think anyone who plays the DAO Union is going to be very happy with this, because you can put together some really killer combos. Like you can get a squad of drones and put a drone controller in there, and with targeting visor, these drones will be shooting and ignoring cover, hitting on 4s, with rending on top of it. Yeah, I think you could have some fun here putting together some very, very powerful shooting units. Just don't let your enemy get in close. Dark Elf Raiders. Why do I have a sneaking suspicion? These are going to be identical to the Dark Elves in Fantasy. That's because they are harassing. Units where most models have this rule may move by up to 3 inches after shooting or being in melee. So again, like I mentioned with the previous one, I like this because it really matches the aesthetic of the army. They're raiders. They hit and run. So what this is, gives them a little extra movement after they attack. Fits the army nicely. It's a pretty solid rule. I mean, maybe 3 inches isn't that great, but over the course of a game, 4 turns, you get to move an extra foot. And if you carry on to turn 5, 6, 7, your guys are actually pretty speedy. Also, given the fact that a lot of the Dark Elf vehicles and things are fast anyways, unless they took that away. I don't see. It looks like, well, the skimmer's still fast, and the jet bike is still fast. So, okay, but if they took away fast and then gave them this, that kind of puts them back where they started. I don't know. I don't play Dark Eldar that much. So those of you who do, let me know. Do you think this is great, or are you upset? Dwarf guilds. Again, I'm thinking we're going to see the exact same thing. And there it is, sturdy. Even has the same name. So +1 to defense. So same rule as the Dark Brothers, which fits the dwarves. It makes him sturdy, it makes him tanky, which is really helpful because they're so slow. So their ability to weather more firepower, to take more of a beating before they die, that's essential given that the army is very slow. So just like I was happy with that in the fantasy, I think it's great here for the sci-fi. Jesters. What do you do with the jesters? Something very speedy? Let's see. Now, it looks like rapid blink, because I'm seeing shrouded on a bunch of them, but not on this one here. So the army-wide rule is rapid blink. When this unit's activated, you may place all models anywhere fully within 3 inches. So, as I mentioned yesterday there was one army, I don't recall, that had this. It's more than just 3 inches more of movement. It's a replacement through a wall, across a river, on the other side of a mountain, line of sight blocking terrain. Like, it's only 3 inches, but it can be really, really helpful to suddenly put your most vulnerable unit in a building rather than right in front of your opponent who is going to shoot it or charge it. So, it's niche, but I can see instances where it could be very, very useful. Eternal Dynasty. I actually have some of these guys in the mail on the way. I'm excited to paint up these guys. Okay, Spirit Power. When they shoot at enemies within 12 or charge, they get AP +1. I think this was another one that changed. If I'm not mistaken, at the initial release of the beta, the rule was just AP +1. And that was another army I said, that's overpowered. You can't do that. You can't give an entire army AP1 across the board, no exceptions. I'm hoping they maybe haven't nerfed it too much. In fact, I think previously it said when it shoots at enemies within half range, but now they've changed it to 12. So for example, these scouts over here have a 30-inch gun. So when they first released the rule, +1 AP makes them very good. Then +1 AP within half makes them pretty good. And now +1 AP within 12, For 30-inch guns, they're not supposed to ever get within 12 inches of an opponent. So we'll have to see. But I think there are some other units like the, I'm sorry, I'm confusing it with DAO. I haven't played these guys yet. But with this new rule, it will definitely impact the way that I think about how to build it. Goblin Reclaimers. What do we got here? Ramshackle Crew. When this model shoots at enemies within 12 inches, or when it charges, targets re-roll unmodified defense rolls of 6. Okay, so we've already seen this before as well, and like I mentioned yesterday, if the goal of these army-wide rules was to give unique flavor, if you start doubling them up, you take away that uniqueness. Now, I have terrible short-term memory. I can't remember which army had this already. I think it was one of the brothers. But you're telling me that if it is, let's say it was one of the brothers, they have the same power as little goblins, that when they shoot up close or charge, they're so ferocious that enemies have to reroll 6s. This might work a little better for the goblins because they're going to be more of a horde army. But I don't know, it doesn't seem to fit. Or they shouldn't have called it Ramshackle Crew. Like, what does that have to do with shooting close range and doing more damage? I don't know. Maybe they should have called it, like, kit bash weapons or something like that. But still, it's copying a special rule. It doesn't feel that special. Each army should truly be unique, not just recycling the same 8 or 9 army-wide rules. Havoc. Okay, we got a bunch. I'm going to check just 1 or 2 because I think it's probably the same as what we saw previously. So, Blessing of Havoc, AP +1 within 12. So it's the same thing as what the Eternal Dynasty had, and it's what was, I believe, what they had also in Fantasy. So let's take a look at, let's see, Change was -1 to hit. Change Blessing still is -1 to hit, and just to triple confirm, Lust was speed, movement, and charging. Yep, there it is. Okay, so everything that I said previously about Fantasy for Havoc, just repeated over here. Although my Havoc army, I was using a community list, and it won't really work that well anymore. So hopefully whoever did it will update it, either that, or I'm going to have to figure out which of these armies I'm going to use my Iron Brothers on. High Elf fleets, I have a sneaking suspicion these are going to follow the Fantasy High Elves. And they even call it the same thing. 1 win advance and 2 rush to charge. Yeah, like I said with the elves, I think I would almost give them the same ones the dark elves have. Like a move forward, shoot, and move back, not just a move faster forward and shoot. Since you can't move after you shoot, this doesn't give you the idea of the elves are bouncing and jumping and moving all over the place and they're impossible to pin down. So just like with Fantasy, I'm a little with these. They're already pretty fast. Does this really give them anything useful? Anyone who plays High Elf fleets, let me know. Human Defense Force. It's the human army. Are we going to see what the human army was? back in fantasy, and we sure are. +1 to morale tests across the board. I get it, I guess, that because the humans have crappy quality, very frequently they're going to be running away, so we give them slightly less chance running away while within 6 inches of another friendly unit. Okay, that's fluffy there, that if you're the only unit left standing, you're not going to get the bonus. I like that. But just still, across the board, HDF suffers from crappy quality with shooting. So going up against DAO Union or against Eternal Dynasty or something like that, they're going to get outshot. And all this rule does is allow you to stick around for another turn until you're completely shot off the board instead of running away screaming. So, I don't know, maybe I'm being a little too pessimistic. Those of you who play HDF, what do you think? Did you find in your games the big problems running away? I mean, last time I played HDF, yeah, they failed morale saves a lot, but I had so many units that it wasn't quite as much of a game changer. If you're playing Custodians and one of your units gets shaken, that's a quarter of your army. Whereas if you're playing HDF and a unit gets shaken, you got 10 more units following behind. So, I don't know. Human Inquisition. Does anyone actually play this? I think I did once in a skirmish in a firefight game. Let's see here. Inquisitorial Agent, I believe, is what we got. Let me put it in the once per game. A unit where all models have this rule can be activated even if it's already activated this round. Only up to half the units in the army may use it in a single round. That is an interesting rule. The ability to activate twice, and it takes away fatigue. So if you have a melee monster, you can go in twice. Do you have any idea how powerful that could be if you plan it just right so that your opponent has finished all their activations and then you have something? You can then activate it twice. So you could have a melee unit run in, attack something, then run in again and finish it off. Or have your long-range firepower just absolutely pummel something on the other side of the board. That could be a lot of fun. And only half can use it in one turn. Okay, so you can't just basically get 2 turns to your opponent's 1. That makes sense. But that would be a very fun rule to play around with. Getting some of these vehicles in play here. Seeing how that works. I don't know. See, that would be something that I think would be fun to put with the HDF. Hold the line, they get to go twice. But then again, that would be really powerful on tanks and some of the Titans and things. So, okay, I get it. So this is a pretty weak army. So what they've done is given them a really strong rule. So that could be fun. That would be worth playing just to test it out. Infected Colonies. This is another army I've been tempted to buy a kit for. Mantic makes a really good army starter set for their sci-fi full-scale battle game. And they have really nice looking models, so I've been tempted. Anyways, getting off topic. Infected. When models shoot at enemies within 12 or when it charges, unmodified results of 6 that hit aren't blocked. Deal. Okay, learn how to read. When this model shoots at enemies within 12 or when it charges, unmodified results of 6 to hit that aren't blocked deal 1 extra wound. Interesting. So instead of when the opponent rolls a 1, it does damage. When you roll a 6 to hit, you set those aside. It's not quite rending, but if they fail to save, it does 1 extra. So not amazing, very situational, could be clutch in the right circumstance. It'll encourage you, though, to roll, to use this with powerful weapons that have strong AP. So there's a very little chance that your opponent can block it. Because if you just shoot a ton of really crappy weapons, I don't think you're going to be too impressed with the results here. So, okay, this could be interesting, possibly. Moving on, the Jackals. One of the unique armies to one-page rules. Let's see if they get a unique special rule. Scrap Hunter. When this model shoots at enemies within 12 or charges, it gets +1 to hit. So same thing as the DAO, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. It seems that what does that have to do with Scrap Hunter? I mean, okay, maybe you're getting in close to gather the scrap, and so you're shooting to chase the other guy away. That's a bit of a stretch. It seems like there should be a different kind of a rule. Like, if they're within cover, they get +1 to defend or something like that. Like, you know, they know how to better use piles of scrap as cover. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud here. But, I mean, it's a decent rule. Within 12, most of their guns, 24 inches, 12 inches for the vultures, 24. So, okay, you get in close, it's going to hurt. But it's not unique. That would be my only complaint. Okay, getting close to the bottom here. Machine Cult. The Machine Fog. -2 hit? Oh, well, look at that. -2 hit. When shooting or charging units where all models have this rule from over 9 inches away, enemies get -1 to hit. So they have stealth. Not just in range shooting, but in the first round of melee as well. So similar to the Change Brothers, or I'm guessing the Change Demons. So this makes them pretty good, especially if you like to run melee heavy. You have a better chance of your guys actually getting to combat before they get shot to pieces. Orc Marauders. I played one game before they changed stuff. So Killy used to just be 6s explode, no matter what. What have they done? They've changed the name. It used to be called Killy, now it's called Ferocious. When this model shoots at enemies within 12 or charges, 6s explode. So it's the same rule as Killy, but now you gotta be closer, and they changed the name. I kind of liked Killy. Maybe it was too, silly, but silly Killy. I don't know. You tell me. Prime Brothers. Okay, like Custodians, what do you give an army that's already very strong? Probably the same rules as the Battle Brothers. Yeah, Battleborn. Same name. So additional range, and I'm guessing that means that the specials for the unique chapters are the same. Yeah, that shoots at enemies, or when it charges, 1 extra hit for each one that they roll. Is that what the Blood Brothers were? Let me take a little peek here. Yes, it is. Okay, so we're not going to go through the rest because it's identical. Oh, but what does that do with the Night or the Dark Brothers? So now they're +1 to defense, even though they have a 2-up defense already. Oh yeah. So basically, you finally have an army that is more defensible than the Custodians, or at least the same. So the Custodians are a 2-up, ignoring the first AP. These guys are a 2-up, +1 to defense. It's the same rule, just described 2 different ways, but wow. So Dark Brothers versus Custodians, the game where no one dies. Ratmen. What do these guys get? Spec Ops. For each unmodified roll of 6 to hit when attacking, it can roll an additional attack. So it's not auto 6s explode, but it's an extra attack for every roll of 6 to attack in ranged or melee. That's pretty good, because there's no range limit. You don't have to charge. It's just when you roll dice, every 6 you get another crack at the roll, which is, I guess, is good, given that we have quality 4, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 4. Yeah, they kind of had to give this to these guys just to give them a fighting chance. Look at the best unit is a quality 4. So if you play the rats, you are going to be used to missing a lot of rolls. And so it's a really strong rule, but it's trying to balance out a really, really not so quality army. So that makes sense. Rebel Guerrillas. Resistance Tactics. I'm guessing that means 6-up ignore wounds. No! They can move after shooting or being in melee, so they get the same thing as the Dark Elves, and I think that works. I mean, if you think of them, they're guerrilla warriors, so they're run to cover, leapfrog behind cover, hit and run, strike and fade. So I like it. It works. Again, the only complaint is that another army shares it, so it's not quite as different. All right, let's see. What do we got left here? The Robot Legions. This is another one, being one of my primary armies. Unless they've changed it, it's just the self-repair. Yep, 6-up ignore, exactly what it was before, although it no longer has that rule where if you fail morale, you then roll dice, and on a 1 through 3 something dies. That is actually an upgrade you can take for some heroes. So not to get too crazy in here, but the no retreat aura. Now, why would you want to take that? Well, some circumstances, while I have been on the receiving end of that and seen my unit of 20 go to a unit of 5, it can hurt, but the fact that the unit's never shaken, that's actually a pretty big deal. So as Tano said, that the way that rule was written previously, for casual play it was too punishing, but for competitive play it was too strong. And I can see what he means there. So nice and simple now, 6+, ignore wounds. But as I mentioned, that's not as good as what the Knight Brothers get, because they get this and a 2+ against psychic powers. Saurian Star Host. I'm excited to get these when the Broken Truth box comes out. I'm going to be, even though I already have tons of old 40k Necrons, I'm still going to get them so that I have a unique army unit for Robot Legions of the OPR models. All right, Saurian Star Host. My guess is this is going to be similar to the fantasy one. Primal, each unmodified 6 to hit when attacking, it can roll another attack. So just like what the Ratmen have, only for the Saurians, like for this one here, the Guardians who have, AP2 weapons, the Chameleons, their toxin guns. Some of these rules are going to start double stacking quite a bit. Like if you look here, Bane ignores regeneration, and you have to reroll defenses of 6, and your 6s can add more on top of that. So I do think we are going to see gameplay slow down a bit, not too much, and hopefully once everyone plays a few rounds and gets to know their units, stuff will speed up much faster. But that's a solid rule. 6 is to hit no matter what, no range, doesn't matter if you charge, 6 is to hit an extra attack. That's a good rule. Soul-Snatcher cults. Cult Advance, so it's a speed. It's what the Wolf Brothers get, which I suppose makes sense. The whole idea behind them is they're almost like ambushy. They take over a city, they're hiding, and then they all reveal themselves at once. So, okay, I could see that. The only downside with rules like this is you use it at the very start of the game, and then for the rest of the game, nothing. Whereas Self-Repair or Primal or these other ones you get to use continually throughout the game. Whereas this one, you get a 9-inch redeployment, and then you're done. At least the armies, like the Dark Elves or the High Elves, over the course of the game, they'll get this much movement, but they get a little more choice of when and how to use it. So, I don't know. It seems like this one, it might be fluffy, but it's not great. I suppose depending on what deployment map you roll up, this could be a little more useful than others, but if you're playing the good old-fashioned deploy 12 inches along the long table edge, it's not giving you a whole lot. And it's basically allowing you to deploy within range of your opponent's guns. So, like I said, those of you who've played with it, let me know if you thought it was good or if it just seemed to be kind of, 10 cents in the lottery. All right, last one, Titan Lords. I'm guessing this is going to be the same as Giants, delayed reaction, or delayed action. Yeah, there it is. Same as I said before, I think that's the best thing you can give the Titans without just making them too strong. Because as they are really, really powerful. And then, Wormhole Demons, I'm guessing similar to Havoc. So change, it's even the same name. Change Blessing, and then Demons of Plague, let's check that one out. Plague Blessing, 6-up ignore, so basically like self-repair. So yeah, similar to what we saw in Fantasy. Okay, so there you have it, folks. There's all of the rules for the Grimdark Future, at least as they are right now. Do keep in mind, this beta goes clear to the end of October, and there might be more changes after. I mean, we all know we've already seen some armies get 1 and even 2 updates to their rule just within the week since it came out. So enjoy these, but don't get married to them because they could change. But as it stands, I see some that are very powerful. I see some that they're good. They're solid. I wouldn't bet the farm on them. And then there's some armies that I think just kind of got the short end of the stick. So let me know what you thought. Which armies are you excited for? Are you going to pick up a new army just because it has a cool special rule? And unfortunately, on the other side, are there some armies you're going to put on the shelf because they're not going to be that fun anymore? Let me know. And until next time, keep your dice on the table.